So in my last video, I talked about how I paint hair in Procreate, but I probably should have started with this video first, which is how I actually go about drawing hair. I'll be giving some tips on just drawing different hair types and kind of what I found helps me draw more like flowy, dynamic hair. And before we start, I want to point out a few tips that pretty much apply to all hair types. The first is to always figure out where your hairline is going to go first. So this can kind of vary based on your character, but in general, it kind of falls around here. You want to keep in mind that you don't want your character's forehead to be too big or their hairline to go all the way back here, unless that's what you're going for. But yeah, you also want to keep in mind where your character's like cranium or skull is. A lot of times I see people draw the hair and kind of forget that the hair actually rests on top of the skull, and so the character's head, if you draw it like flat against their skull, it's gonna kind of look tiny. So just keep that in mind. So let's start with drawing straight hair. The biggest problem I see a lot of artists have with drawing straight hair is not really having a flow to it. So when I started drawing my hair, when I would draw straight hair, it would look something kind of like this. The hair goes straight down, and I would use a lot of lines to convey hair in general, which really weighs down the whole thing. But if you can instead kind of think of your hair in like big loose shapes, it makes it much easier to get more of a flow to those shapes in your hair. So instead of drawing a ton of individual strands, I might draw the main big shapes of the hair and try to do so in like just a few big strokes. I also like to draw straight hair kind of coming over the character's shoulder like this. Since hair is really fluid, it doesn't have to be like really still or stiff. I just think this adds more dynamic to it. Again, I feel you can see even at the ends there's just a few shapes instead of a bunch of individual strands. And then once I have my big shapes of hair, then I'll go in and add a few details just to further kind of accentuate the flow or the direction of the hair. So if we look really quickly at the difference between this version and this version, I think this second version has a lot more life to it and it helps flow a little bit better. Okay, so let's try more wavy or curly hair. And so the difference between drawing wavy hair versus straight hair is this flow that we got with the straight hair is much more pronounced. So it's really important when you're drawing these waves just to make sure that they kind of follow in the same path or direction that makes sense. So again, we're trying to think about the hair as these big, simple shapes. You don't really have to worry about all of these individual curls if you can just get the big shapes to look right, and then you can add details later. And so you'll see as I'm kind of drawing, when I have a wave here, I want to kind of make sure that it makes sense and it's going in a direction where they're all kind of following that same path. And then the last type of hair that I want to show you guys how I draw is coily hair. So I'm not gonna lie, this hair type is the most difficult for me to draw, and it took me a long time to find a way to convey it that I'm happy with. I think I've finally found a way to draw it that I like the result of, but I just want to quickly say, if you're really struggling with drawing this type of hair or really any type of hair, just look to your favorite artists and just kind of see how they handle it. So I really looked to Loish for inspiration on how to draw this hairstyle, and I found it super helpful. So I think looking to another artist and seeing kind of how they approach it can really help. So I'm going to start again with the hairline, and I'm always going to add at least one kind of curl in the face just to kind of help convey that this mass of hair is actually a bunch of like small curls. And again, I'm thinking this hair has a large, simple shape, so I'm just going to use kind of these small curves around the edges just to show the single mass of hair. And then I'm going to add a few individual curls just to kind of help define it and detail it. So I'm going to add these few curls by just using these kind of small lines that are hopefully conveying these like ringlety curls. And it's definitely more difficult to show a flow with this hairstyle, but I still want the direction of the curls to make sense. So I kind of have them moving outward from the character's scalp, and just there's still a flow to it. It's just not like going down like the other two hairstyles were. I hope that makes sense. And yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for how I draw hair. Like I said, I just released another video on how I paint hair in Procreate. I'll have a link in the description and also embedded in this video, which you can check out. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe on your way out, and I'll see you guys in the next one.